Going back, I guess, was to when I was extremely young and wanted to be an entrepreneur. From a young age, I used to sell stuff outside the house and stuff like that, lemonade and other bits and pieces. When I was 18, I messed up my A-levels. And then the second time, it became a little bit more complicated because my father became terminally ill during that year. And he became ill in February 1985 and died in May 1985, about a week before I took my A-levels. Was it Carpe Diem, seize the day? After that, I have always lived life trying to seize the day. And I need to tell you, he said, you changed my life that day, changed my life. He said, I would have been a person just swinging from job to job. I'd be in my similar sort of place that I was then, probably, but you changed my life. And to be honest, if I'd passed away at that moment in time, I would have been happy, because I'd made a difference to someone's life that was so massive, huge from his point of view. The Les thing trumps the selling the business by miles. That is probably one of the defining moments of my life. I think there's a piece of cake for everybody. Everyone should have a little bit of cake, and then you're all happy going forward. Life's very short, and you should try and make people happy and smile. Carpe Diem, seize the day. Go for it, because you're only here once. What is the point of being of thinking, oh, I could have done, I'll do that tomorrow. Why do that tomorrow? Because basically you might be dead tomorrow. My dad was, so I'd do it today.
I believe everyone has a story to tell. Through seeking true, authentic insights about the entrepreneurial journey, I provide a platform for our peers to share their stories and inspire those that listen. This is the County Business Talks podcast, produced by H2 Productions.
Good morning.
Well, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you very much. Apologies, I'm a little late, but you're a little early.
No problem at all. Listen, I'm really grateful for you jumping on, mate. It's greatly appreciated. So thanks ever so much. And mate, you're guest 16.
I'm guest 16. I'm guest 16, and hour 16, I guess.
Yes, guest 16 of 24. So we're getting there. We're getting there. The live one on the stage went well earlier. We went slightly behind, but we're sort of catching up, and we're getting in. So we're all good, mate. We're all good. But listen, like I say, I'm genuinely grateful for you jumping on. So I love that shirt, by the way.
Right. It's one of the things I do is I wear my shirts, and I wear loud shirts.
I love that. Man after my own heart, looking good. Well, look, mate, we're going to jump straight in if we can. I just want to tell the listeners a little bit about your story and your career.
Going back, where do you want to go to? How
mate,
far?
Start out your business journey.
Start where I want to start. Okay, cool. All right. Well, going back, I guess, was to when I was extremely young and wanted to be an entrepreneur.
So have you always
I can't really tell you from a young age. I used to sell stuff outside the house and stuff like that, lemonade and other bits and pieces. Didn't get as far. I was pushed certainly towards with my family towards university and towards getting qualifications before I went and did anything entrepreneurial. That sort of starts where I started with entrepreneurial stuff, and then I guess what shaped my life as regards going forward, as regards how I live life, was that when I was 18, I messed up my A-levels, and A-levels were based on, at the time, I was trying to work and do A-levels the same way as you do O-levels, which is absolutely doing no work whatsoever and getting okay grades on doing no work because I've got a brain. I tried the same thing at A-level first time and failed miserably. And then the second time it became a little bit more complicated because my father became terminally ill during that year. and he became ill in February 1985 and died in May 1985, about a week before I took my A-levels. But we knew he was ill. We knew he was going to die. He had cancer of the pancreas, which at the time was incurable. It's still a very bad cancer because it isn't easy to cure, or it's certainly difficult to cure. But my father was a dentist, and one of his best friends was his doctor. And his doctor told me, because she knew I was retaking my A-levels, she told me I had 8 months to live, and it would be good. It would be great for him to see me get great A-levels. So basically I worked my arse off, and then unfortunately I worked my arse off, and when I found out that he had cancer, I'd been working hard before then, but then it was like, I want to show my dad that I can get to university or whatever. And unfortunately he died May 30th 1985, and then my A-level started about a week and a bit later. So it's a bit of a... So the reason that's... and I got very good A-levels. I got like 3 A's and a D, and the D was in maths, because the last A-level was when I basically realised that I would be going home and my dad wouldn't be there. The other ones were on autopilot, and the last A-level was like sort of, hold a sec, when this finishes, I'm going home and there's no one to talk to, because we become quite tight, but we were tight anyway. But between when he was diagnosed and when he died, every night after school I used to come home and sit on the bed and talk to him for like half an hour, 45 minutes. He was young as well. I mean, he was 44 when he died, which is no age. So the reason I say that, and that's quite I'm quite an open person, by the way. So
I love it. So
you may not have thought this was the way the interview was going to go, but what it's about. Yeah, well, what it did basically was it just said to me, Carpe Diem, seize the day, and after that, I have always lived life trying to seize the day, which then leads me to the next bit. I got good grades. I went to Leeds Uni, very good uni. Had a great time, good friends, did lots of stuff. Didn't really. I went back to my A-level, my first year of A-level days. Didn't really do the work. I ended up with a third, which was terrible. But I did play hockey for the university, golf for the university, and cricket for the university. But that doesn't get you a decent degree. What that does give you is a lot of sport. It also gives you rubbish knees, because my knees are knackered now. So came out of uni, joined Touche Ross as they were in Leeds. Loved being in part of a team, and it. What it did give me, the whole point of what I was trying to do, I did economics at university, and I did obviously accountancy with Touche Ross. And what it did give me was a grounding in numbers and a grounding in how things work. And after my sort of first 3 years with Touche getting qualified, I then went into their insolvency part for around about 2 years, something like that. And I learned how businesses worked badly. And that people had some great ideas, some great businesses, some super stuff, but they didn't know how to run a business. And it's interesting. People, they need to have the idea that it's not turnover. Turnover is vanity, and profit is where you want is the sanity, as they say. And not just that, but also from a liquidator's point of view, insolvency practitioner's point of view, it's to do with cash flow and making sure that you got the money in the bank, because the bank won't ride to your rescue if you've got. Well, they will to an extent. You'd lose quite a lot of the money because you'd have to use people to finance your debtors to be able to pay your creditors, and then you start to lose too much margin, and so basically. I learned how some people ran some great businesses, but just didn't know how to run business. Then this is a full history of my,
isn't it? But it's a great, grounded, like you say, to to understand the running of a business, the numbers, the key, because you can have a brilliant idea and you can try and execute that. If you don't know the numbers and it's not working financially, you've not got a business, because it will eventually fail and be in someone.
Exactly. They people have businesses. They have these really great ideas. You need a budget. You need a P&L. You need to, go back to basics. Will the business work? Have you done the research? Have you done the sort of stuff? Was it Rocco Forte that used to he used to stand outside spaces where he wanted to have hotels, or he thought he should have hotels, and count the footfall. And it was down to footfall. And if so many thousand people went past that space in a certain amount of time, then it was a good place to have a hotel. If it was not, he realised it. It's like, now people go to supermarkets and they drive to supermarkets, so maybe it's a previous era with the Forte stuff. But if you're a people business, you need people to be going past. And if you're a people business where they haven't got the facility to move people around that much, the cars or the trains or underground or that sort of infrastructure, then you need to be in a place where people fall in. And that's what Trust House Forte, Rocco Forte, where he put his hotels. Back to where I was. Sorry, I'll keep going and bore you to death, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, well, going back to where we were, I did that. We and just on the Carpe Diem, I've been 5 years at Touche, and one of the things my father had said to me before he passed away, well, way before he was even ill, was that just remember, you're going to get no money from me when I retire, because your mum and I are going to go around the world and tour the world, which is great. Unfortunately, he was probably about sort of 16 years away from retirement when he passed. So I qualified as accountant. I put some money in the bank, and then I decided that I was going to go off around the world and see the world, which we planned. I just got a new girlfriend who is now my wife, or not that much of a new girlfriend. She'd been a girlfriend for about 6 months, and I said, I'm going around the world. Do you want to come with me? And if you don't want to come with me, I'm still going around the world, because life is short. I wanted to do it, and I was going to do it. So she decided to come with me. And to be honest, marriage, we've been married now 28 years. I hope she's not watching this. I think that's right. She's definitely not watching. Still. So 28 years, and so anyone was saying, go around the world. So we went off to America, then into New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia. Where came Indonesia into Hong Kong and into a bit of China, then on to Singapore, then Malaysia, then Thailand, then Nepal, then India, and then home, which was not the normal route. People normally go India and the other way, but when I'd done all my research, a lot of people got to India and got a bit ill, because it is a different sort of culture, and you have to be careful with your food and stuff. But we'd made a decision that if we were going to travel the world, I basically decided I wanted to do the bits. I didn't want to get stuck being ill somewhere, so India was the last place to be, just in case we got ill. We didn't, but just in case. But that was brilliant.
How long was that?
Just about 11 months in the end, I think it was. We came back early. We came back a few weeks early because my wife's father passed away while we were away. He'd been ill with Alzheimer's, so it wasn't that much of a problem, because obviously he'd already gone in his head, and didn't really know that my wife was his daughter anymore, really, and stuff like that. But so we came back a little bit early, but it was the best time. And I've seen places in Australia that Australians haven't seen. No doubt there are Australians out there who've seen places in Britain that I've never seen, because you don't tend to travel your own country.
So
I did that. did that. And when I was out there, one of the things I watched for was trends and things that were happening outside of the UK that weren't happening in the UK. So came back and went to work for Royal Sun Alliance for a while, doing some projects for them while I sort of sorted out what I wanted to do for business or with the business, and then set up the business basically, which was I think with business you make mistakes and you learn from them, and then you come back better. If you're lucky, you make mistakes and you're able to keep the business going. We started our first business, which was a restaurant. Everyone dreams of running a restaurant. It's one of the worst things ever in the world to do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, I apologise. Anyone that's, it's such a tough gig.
I spoke to one of the guests earlier. He come on after his shifts. There's a guy called Stephen Edwards who won MasterChef back in 2000, or whatever. And he come on recently. He's got 2 restaurants, one in Brighton and one in Richmond as well. But saying exactly that, it's not, you don't become a restaurateur to make money.
Yeah,
it's
a wonderful thing to do, and the feedback is amazing when it goes well. And we met. We set up. I think we got married by that stage. Yeah, we got married by that stage. So my wife had come. She'd taken a career break to go around the world. She was with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and she was a supervisor. She came back, and within 3 months they promoted her to a manager. And I think, and she basically credits the fact that going off around the world actually helped her career, because they saw that as career advancement, because she'd gone and done stuff and realised what was in the rest of the world. So luckily she had a decent career, and then she moved up to being a director quite quickly. We then, so set up this business. It was called Not Sushi. Which was a restaurant that was a Japanese restaurant that did noodles. It was a bit like Wagamama's, but we set it up. I think we set up in the wrong place. We set up. There was a few reasons. It was a decent business. There was a few bits and pieces we didn't get right. Location was okay, but the Liverpool itself, it was very, very early for this sort of thing. We were talking early 90s, and it was a shock to Liverpool. It did okay, but it didn't have the numbers you wanted to come. The Liverpool's more of a cultural and a restaurant place now, but then I mean the top restaurant there, I shan't name names. The top restaurant there was known, which had queues out the door, was known as having lots of freezers and lots of burgers in there. That was like sort of what sold in Liverpool. I apologise to people of Liverpool. I'm a child of the Merseyside region, but it's what it was. Anyway, so we did that.
So that didn't work out. So you had to close that, or?
Well, it didn't. In actual fact, there was. You see, there's all this thing called fate, and I'm a strong believer in fate. One thing leads to another. And we started doing sushi nights once a month, and they were very popular. And we made that sort of once a fortnight, and they were popular, i.e. they sold out. So then we started doing them once a week. So I was like, well, if this is working and this is all right, let's bring sushi onto the menu. It's a bit of a strange thing to do, given the restaurant was called Not Sushi. But we then started getting a bit of a clientele. So we'd get the Liverpool footballers, the Everton footballers. If we had any celebs in town, they'd come in, because we were the only sushi restaurant in the place. It was a bit mad for Liverpool. If you consider Liverpool having a sushi restaurant early 90s, way ahead of its time. But the Liverpool people, it didn't really get there in the end. And what happened was we started making the sushi, and the Daily Mail wrote a piece about it. They came to see us, and I'm not a big fan of the Mail, I'll be totally honest. But they came to see us. But any publicity, as they say. And they came to see us, and they asked us what about sort of breakfast sushi? And I was like, well, you can do anything with sushi, because basically people think sushi is raw fish. It's not. Sashimi is raw fish. Sushi is anything in rice. So we made for the Daily Mail, and I don't know where the article is. We've got a piece on it somewhere in the storage area, the garage or whatever. The article. They wrote a piece about us doing sausage, bacon, and egg sushi, which is easily doable. It's like sort of, egg, sausage, and bacon right down the middle of a sushi roll. Wrap it up and serve it with tomato ketchup. So it's a bit mad. So we did that, and it worked, and it got some publicity, and people started asking for it. So we put it on the menu, and then we started doing some other. I guess you'd call it what's the word? Not mashup. What's the word? It's more sort of. It's just unusual, but there's a better word that some stage of this chatting with you I'll remember, and I'll come back to. So we started doing that. And then there was a friend of mine who was an account manager for Asda, Jane McFerrin, if she's watching at some stage or gets a name check. She actually said, why don't you take this to Asda? Because Asda haven't got sushi. At the time, Marks and Spencer's had it, and it was tiny. Sainsbury's was starting to have it, and Asda didn't have it. So I was like, okay, well, how do I do that? She said, well, here, you can either go see the buyer, and I'll give you the details, or you could take it to Alan Layton, who was the CEO at the time, and basically give it to him and see what happens. So I turned up early one Monday morning in the Asda car park in Leeds. I handed a sausage, bacon and egg sushi pack, or two packs, one for breakfast, which was sausage, bacon and egg in one pack, and for lunch we did chicken tikka sushi and rare roast beef and horseradish sushi, and gave it to him and said, if you're interested, here's my business card. It's something we're doing in Liverpool, and I think it'd work for the Asda customers, because it made sushi accessible. Sushi was seen at the time as being inaccessible. It was, for the rich, for whatever. So so anyway, next day, long story short, next day, Alan Layton writes back to me to say, really love the product, thought it was really interesting. Our buyer will be in touch. And by the end, so then we set up a sushi manufacturing business. So we had the restaurant, we had the sushi manufacturing business, and one of them had to give. I was driving home one night. Day started at 6 a.m. making Martin Leopard, who's just written fusion food on my WhatsApp. Yeah, fusion food, that's good. We like that. That's what it was. It was fusion food. Name checking him from Singapore, I think. So So as I was saying, I was saying about the fact that so we had both. I used to start the day at about 6 a.m. at the factory, sorting out all the sushi. Yeah, and then I'd finish the day around about midnight at the restaurant with the bits and pieces. And the restaurant's still going okay, but I woke up. I don't know, driving home. I woke up sort of hitting the hard shoulder bit and the bumping bit one morning going home, and I just thought, you know what, I can't do both. I either bring someone into the business and we run both, or we close the one down that's got the less numbers, and the less numbers was always going to be the restaurant. So we looked to sell the restaurant. We had a buyer for the restaurant, and he was wanting to change it into a food hall. And put meats and stuff in there, and unfortunately it was the time of BSE, so he pulled from the deal about a week before the deal because of the BSE problem and stuff like that, and so we ended up just closing the restaurant down, taking our losses, but moving it all across into or moving up my presence into sushi. And then that sort of went from strength to strength, really. We ended up, I think we started with 10 Asdas, then 20 Asdas, then 30 Asdas. We ended up with all 650 Asdas. bit of Sainsbury's. We ended up with Budgeons, with Summerfield, and that was 2007. I got bought out by a company called Greencore PLC, who came along, and I thought they wanted to take our products and sell them to their garages. They had 2,500 garages. Greencore PLC did the sandwiches for Asda, for Sainsbury's, for a few other bits and pieces, and they were listed on the Irish Stock Exchange. They're a massive company, and yeah, I just thought they wanted me to supply them, and they actually came back and said, yeah, that's really interesting. Like the company, we'd like to buy it.
Wow.
And so that was like, okay, make us an offer. Made me an offer. It turned out to be an offer that I couldn't really refuse. And so 6 months. That was early 2007, and then sold the business within a few months. And then I was meant to have a 12-month workout. To stay there and work for 12 months for them to show them how the business was running. But that turned into 6 months because my wife got an offer to come over to Dubai, to be a director in Dubai with partnership potential, and so that's why we ended in Dubai. That's part one. Do you want me to continue?
Mate, please do. Fascinating. What a fascinating.
Okay.
When Martin sent me the link, and I obviously connected with you on LinkedIn and had a little look, and I was so intrigued to find out more about the journey and about the story, because I got that about the accountants and then obviously setting up the business, and I was intrigued to find out a bit more about the business that you sold. So that's really interesting and fascinating, because I'm a massive foodie as well, so I'm not too sure about the egg and bacon sushi, if I'm being honest, but
It works. Listen, if you can get someone to make it for you, sushi's actually really, I'm giving this away, sushi's actually really easy to make, and the margins are excellent. And the company that took me over, Greencore, still doing sushi. When I left the company, it had probably around about somewhere between a 7 and 9% bottom line, and we were on a 5%. On 5 million turnover. They've got it up to somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 million turnover, but their margins have been cut because the way the world works, basically, but it's still decent margin compared to other stuff. So yeah, they're continuing on with that, and which is great. I mean, I still keep in contact with them because I actually still own their factory, because I bought the building as well, which was quite useful from that point of view.
wow.
Yeah, that's the pension.
That's the pension. And then, you moved to you in Dubai now, and talk to me about the next business venture, because obviously they're around events as well. So talk to me about that.
Oh well, I'm sort of a bit of a serial entrepreneur, I guess, and just sort of going back on it. I mean, I came over here. I decided. I mean, I worked, brutally honest, I'd worked my arse off for a lot of years. And the first child was born in 2005, and we came over here 2007. And my wife was doing very well at PwC and was earning good money over here. And I decided I was going to take a few months off, which turned into a few years off. My golf handicap improved, but I was able to take our first child and then our subsequent second child that we had the second one born here, and both of them I looked after and became a house husband for a while. I was sort of house husband for quite a while, but during the day you have time to do other stuff. They're at nursery, they're at school, they're doing whatever they're going to do. And so, and also Dubai's quite easy for that sort of thing. We have a maid here, a nanny. She helps, And so a lot of the stuff, and it's quite usual to have that sort of thing over it. It might seem a bit, I don't know what's the word. It might seem a bit that it's a bit. People get the people say, oh, it's you should be doing your own stuff, but in actual fact, you're employing someone who's paid a good wage. Well, I think a decent wage for here. We look after I've always tried to look after our staff. I think it's really important. Whatever staff you have, whether it's within Dubai or within the sushi business, if you are decent to people and treat them with respect, people appreciate that and they stay with you. With the sushi business, I can't remember what the minimum wage was, but we always paid either 30 pence or 50 pence above the minimum wage, which meant that people didn't go jumping elsewhere. And also we tried to be fair with the staff, and we gave them not help is the wrong word, but we go and sort of buy the drinks in the pub. We go and do stuff like that, little things, and people like that sort of thing. I mean, there's a couple of guys there. There's one of them.
We talk about it a lot, like people. We look after your staff, and whatever that looks like, whether it's beer in the pub or healthcare or whatever it looks like. But staff benefits, and so many businesses now, people looking for work are not looking for necessarily always who's paying the most money, but they're looking at what company offers.
Yeah, I mean, and have you got is the company a nice company to work for? I mean, Sushi San, which was the name of the company, is now called Green Core Food to Go Sushi. Which was Sushi San, by the way, meant if I am Robert San, so I'm Mr. Robert in Japanese. So Sushi San was Mr. Sushi, but if you put Mr. Sushi, it was a bit anglicised. So this way, it gave a little bit of mystery. So yeah, there's still two or more guys that work at the sushi business who were with me in 2000. There's a wonderful guy called Steve Moore who's still there, I understand. I think he joined us in about 1999 or 2000. He was the most loyal staff member. Steve, never brilliant at what he did, but absolutely dependable, and loved his job and loved the fact that we stuck with him. And he made a few mistakes, but it wasn't like they weren't earth-shattering. He ran the forklift truck into a wall one day. But these things happen, and in a way it was funny. But so he's still there, and there's another guy called Les Croft, and I probably shouldn't do name checks, but Les was an employee at the time and came to see me and said, boss, I've got these. Basically, we need some more money. We should all be paid more money. I said, well, okay. And it was like sort of shop steward sort of time. I was like, okay, Les. Well, at the moment, I'm paying what I can pay because we're not making enough money. This is very early on in the business. I think this would be 2000, 2001. And I said to him, if you come up with an idea that will help us improve the business, that will make us more money, I'm quite happy to cascade that down. I said, go away. Don't be someone that just says we just need more money, but tell me how we can make more money. You're at the sharp end. You're seeing what's doing. Anyway, Les went away. I came back with 2 or 3 ideas, which are brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and ridiculous things. We had a sushi machine which cut at something like 22 mils and gave us 6 pieces on each roll. Les suggested we took the sushi machine and made it cut at 20 mils, which is very little difference for the customer. But then we get 8 pieces out of a roll. So I'd increased my output by 33%, which is brilliant. Yeah. And we'd had this machine for a while, and it was like, well, why don't we do this, boss? And like, okay, well, the machine cost another £4,000 or £5,000, but the payoff was really quick. And anyway, so quite quickly, Les got promoted to supervisor, and he's now he's still there. He's the production manager for Green Corps.
Yeah.
I understand he's the first person ever to buy his own house in his family. He owns a house now. He's obviously got the company car, but he's also it looks like I understand that the kids are looking like they're going to go to university, which should be the first kids in his family to go that far, to sort of whatever. And I saw him probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I went back and went around the factory and chatted to them. And I chatted to him, and I'm quite an emotional guy, and he absolutely had me in bits, because he said, "Can I have a word?" And it was just me and him in the room. And he just, "I need to tell you," he said, "you changed my life that day, changed my life." He said, "I would have been a person just swinging from job to job. I'd be in my similar sort of place that I was then, probably, but you changed my life by saying, if you actually make a difference, Les, we make a difference backwards," and which is what we did. And it was quite emotional. He cried, and I cried, which you don't normally do with with employees. But I was so delighted, and to be honest, if I'd passed away at that moment in time, I would have been happy, because I'd made a difference to someone's life that was so massive, huge from his point of view.
It's interesting to listen to that, like, just cut across you, but like, you talk about selling a business, making money, and as entrepreneurs and business owners, we generally like building things. So you create these business opportunities, and the goal is to build it to sell something eventually and make some money out of it. Okay, great. But ultimately, it's about the journey and the purpose of why you're doing something. And actually, where you measure success is not necessarily about the financial reward that we get at the end of it, but potentially, like you're saying, about that feeling. I'm just trying to compare the feeling between you selling the business and I've made some money, to the feeling of standing in front of Les and him telling you the difference you made to his life. What level?
Oh, the Les thing trumps the selling the business by miles. That is probably one of the defining moments of my life. I don't really. I probably talk about it sometimes, but not hugely. But it's. And he's an absolutely wonderful guy, and it's the same for Steve. Steve's now, I understand, married, got children, but he's still doing what he's doing. And if you see them, they wouldn't. It wouldn't be a handshake; it'd be a hug. And I think that's a big difference. People that I guess we showed them love, and we showed them respect that a lot of businesses don't. And I think if you show your employees respect, now all the way through, we have. I was just talking before about our maid nanny. A lot of people here, they'll change their staff regularly because there's this or there's that, or every year or every couple of years they'll change staff. We tend to hold on to. We've had Jamila, who comes from Nepal. She's been our maid nanny now since 2010. We had our first maid nanny 2007, 2010, and then we had Jamila from 2010. She's now been with us 12 years, and she's part of the family. The kids say "I love you" when she goes to bed. The kids grew up with Jamila, and Jamila grew up with the kids. And we were talking the other day. She's going to retire next year. She's going to retire, and she's going back to a 4-bedroom house that she's built in Nepal, based on the money that we've paid her, because we pay her a monthly amount, and obviously she has to live, but we also provide accommodation, we provide a food allowance, we provide other bits and pieces, which is statutorily what you have to do here. But Jamila has gone and built a 4-bedroom house, and I think she's put her daughter through university as well, based on it's how the world works. Please don't judge as regards that's terrible that you're employing someone to whatever, but it's a job. And she has she's changed. She will go home and be a very happy person. She's only 56, 57. So she's got a number of years. She's got her savings, and in Nepal, she'll be a very wealthy person because that's
the thing. Because what you're talking about is actually just having an impact on people's lives. Like you say, we've talked about your business journey and you know, seizing the day and, you know, taking these opportunities and creating a business out of something and making, like you say, making money. But what you can tell by you talking and where the happiness and success level comes from is by the impact that you're having on people's lives, for whatever that is, whether you're employing people.
It's true. I mean, yeah, it is, and it's something that gives me pleasure when people enjoy. I mean, we as the same came over here. Kids went to school. I started getting involved with there's something called Round Table. I don't know if you've heard of Round Table. It's a British organisation started. It's a gents organisation. It's like a bit like Rotary. It's not quite like the Square Dealers. It's a bit like Rotary, except you retire at 40 from Round Table because you're meant to be a young man's organisation. It started by a guy called Lou Marchese, and in Norwich, I think in 1921 or something. He went to a Rotary meeting, realised that at 22 or 23, however he was, he didn't have huge amounts in common with the 65-year-olds that were still in Rotary, and set up a similar organisation for young people, which is called younger men, sorry, which is called Round Table. There was a similar version for ladies called Ladies Circle, so I came here, and I've been a member of Round Table back in the UK, and that was really great because when I came here there was a bit of a stepping stone. I could actually meet people quite easily and quite quickly who were the same sort of idea, you know, doing charity work, helping the community, equally equally having a few beers and enjoying life. 1 second. Sorry.
So all good.
So you can bear with me 1 second. There's a bottle of water over here. You stay there. Bit of product placement there. That is a bottle from Earth, where we have one of our theatres, Theatre by Earth. But I'll tell you about it in a bit. So joined that, and I had the time, and we actually then we helped run the Round Table World Meeting here in Dubai in 2010, or I helped facilitate it. And normally the world meeting's around about 250 people, but we brought it in Dubai, and I'd sort of looked at it before, and again using a business head rather than I had a business head, and I said to them, well, rather than just do it over 4 days, which it normally is, you do the meeting over 4 days, but if we go to this hotel, we can offer a 7-day package before the meeting, or a 3-day package in the 4 days of the meeting, or we can offer a 7-day package after the meeting, and so on, to try and give people a chance to come on holiday to Dubai, as well as whatever. And the hotel's happy because they got extra money that way. And anyway, cut a long story short, those meetings outside of the Europe used to get somewhere in the region of 250 to 300 people. We had somewhere, I think, about 850 people come. We took over the whole hotel. I said to the hotel, if we fill every room, or like sort of over 90% of rooms, can we rebrand the hotel? So the Jebel Ali Hotel became the Round Table Hotel, and we put a banner across the top of their Jebel Ali Hotel. So we had Round Table Hotel on as a banner, and people still remember it. It's quite interesting that there's actually a reunion for the 2010 World Meeting here next year, because there were so many people came from around the world that they came. So that was me getting into altruistic and into charity stuff. Those things aren't meant to make a profit; they're meant to be not for profit. We ended up making $25,000 because break even was at 250 people, and we were 600 over that. And we also, I mean, the reason they remember stuff is because we'd made so much money because of where we budgeted, back to budgeting, back to P&L, back to making sure you know what you're doing with money. because we budgeted it for the second night and the gala dinner night, where everyone went for dinner, we put champagne on every table. I mean, not fizz, champagne on every table. And so people like just sort of, wow, Dubai is paved with gold. And it wasn't. It was just well budgeted, basically. And of course, then the hotel were delighted with us. Go on, carry on, sorry.
I'm keen to, because there's obviously a couple of bits I'd love to touch on. Because obviously I'm just conscious my next guest is in Sydney Airport.
I apologise.
No, it's no problem. But I'm really keen, mate. After we finish this, actually, another time, come on the podcast as a proper show that I do, and wherever we won't have a limit, and we can chat for it, because mate, what a fascinating story you've got. And just quickly, I want you to tell me quickly about the theatre and that you sort of mentioned as well, and with the
okay. So basically, to 2017. A friend of mine, I'd been here for 10 years. The kids were now a bit older. They were doing their stuff. I've frozen at my end. You can hear me and everything. See me move.
Yeah. All good.
You're okay. Fine. Yeah. Fine. Just my computer's having a glitch. So 2017, friend of mine said to me, "Have you seen you're doing your?" And I was doing events at that stage, and I'd helped the school, both my kids' old school, which was Repton, Dubai, and Repton's an offshoot of Repton in the UK, and then Dubai College, which is where my kids both go now. Dubai College had their 40th birthday ball, which I basically facilitated and helped run, and it made them £40,000, which they were rather pleased with. Because of everything we did to make it, and they were aiming for 600 people, and because of did it and all the events and me having knowledge of events and also making sure we got good deals with people, we ended up with 920 people. We actually had a waiting list for a school ball, which is a bit unknown, and it was the biggest event that they'd had in Dubai for certainly for schools ever. Probably at the moment still is, but we've got a 45th coming up next year, so I'm aiming to go above 900 next year, still helping them. So it came from that. I'd done my events, I'd done the bits and pieces, I'd helped fund and do charity stuff and try and give people a good time, make them smile, and a friend of mine said, "Have you looked at this theatre on the QE2?" And I was like, "No." And I'm doing these events, and it was like, so well, this is what we could do with it. We found that we went in, we spoke to them. They were going to turn the theatre in the QE2 into a cinema, which is fine, but there's loads of cinemas in Dubai, and it's not going to go any different. I honestly believe that a theatre is, now I've got into it, theatre is the heartbeat of a business. There's a number of places in Dubai where certainly one of them they took out a theatre, and it's the whole area around there, to me, appears to be struggling, because the theatre used to bring in 1,000, 1,500 to 2,000 people a week with stuff they had on. What they have now is bringing in 100 to 200 people, and so all the businesses around that area are suffering. Anyway, cut a long story short, we started the theatre, we called it Theatre by QE2. It was going great guns at the end of 2019. We came into COVID, we hit a massive buffer. It's been hard work since then, but however, just going forward from there, it's getting back on its feet, and the point of what I'm trying to do really is not just to have one theatre, because going back to sushi, it's all a numbers game as regards the number of people you can get in. So I have a finite number in the QE2, which is 500. So we've now started to run another theatre in Abu Dhabi, which is called Theatre by Earth. That has 632 seats. We're looking to try and get into other theatres in the GCC area. So that's the Gulf area. I'm talking acronyms. My apologies. The Gulf area. So we're looking at Bahrain. Once Qatar has had the World Cup, we'll be going to speak to Qatar. But at the moment, they're too involved in the World Cup. So we're trying to get a number of different theatres, which we will brand all as Theatre By, and then we will end up having a circuit. So if people come, they'll be able to, if we get people out, they'll be able to play 5 or 6 different theatres around the Gulf and make it worthwhile. If you fly someone out, it's £500-600. If you're putting that into one place, it's a £500-600 cost on the bottom line. If you're putting that into 2 places, it's £250. Putting that into 3 places, etc., etc. So you spread your costs, you increase it's economies of scale, basic economics, going back to my university days. That's a long story short. And so now we're doing all that sort of thing. And it's fun and it's mad.
You know what? One of the best things about doing a podcast is getting to meet brilliant individuals like yourself who, in honesty, like I said, I mentioned to Martin about I really need someone. Obviously, timing wise, going to be difficult. If you got people, I know he works over in Dubai. I said, yeah, have a chat with Rob. He's a great guy. And like I said, I had a look on your LinkedIn and a little bit about, but what an absolutely fascinating story to tell the whole. And mate, and honestly, I want to get you on the full podcast because I know we haven't got a time limit and we can just chat away because there's so many things I'd love to ask you and delve into, which unfortunately, like I said, only because the guy's in Sydney, he's in the airport, he's got to get on the flight, so I'm going to have to.
No problem. Listen, I've got no problem. I absolutely love to do that, and it's really interesting. I guess going back over the whole thing, it'd be good in actual fact if you question. I've realised it's been a bit of a monologue, and I apologise. But
I asked the question, and you told me your story. But my tagline for the podcast is everyone's got a story to tell, and mate, your story has been brilliant. But before we do go, I am going to ask you. I finished every episode with some quick fire questions, so I'm just going to throw 4 quick questions at you. And so, one piece of advice do you give to your 18-year-old self?
You asked me this question on this, it wasn't one piece. One piece. Maybe sometimes take a bigger risk. We had an opportunity with the sushi business to turn it into something that would have been. It ended up well, and I got a good payoff. But we could have turned it into something that was actually that would have been probably triple, quadruple the size, and we didn't take the risk that we should have done. But however, that's the accountant in me. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes leap. We're leaping more with the theatre. It's a bit scary, but we are leaping more with the theatre. But we have a track record, and it's useful to have a track record from before. It's also useful that I've made money before, and therefore have assets and stuff like that to cope with. That's 18. Go on, it's a long answer. Next one.
Who's been the biggest inspiration throughout your life, and why?
I think there's been lots. I see lots of business people making money and behaving. I see lots of people making money and behaving well. I also see lots of people making money and behaving badly. And I'm not very political, but some people are horrible people, and I don't believe. And I'll name. I despise Donald Trump because of the fact he's made money, but then he shafted a lot of other people along the way, which is not the way to do business. I think there's a piece of cake for everybody. Everyone should have a little bit of cake, and then you're all happy going forward. Life's very short, and you should try and make people happy and smile as you go forward. Who's been? I guess my dad. That would be the biggest influence. He made me, because he passed away. He was a lovely guy. At his funeral, and I'll leave you with this. I'll tell you one other thing. Book. You should. Everyone should read Michael McCormack, What They Don't Teach You at the Harvard Business School. That's a brilliant book for networking. One of the best books I've ever read for networking. Old book. You'll have to get it on a thing. But my dad, and I'll tell you why. Because when he passed away, we went to the funeral, and at the funeral, we got there, and there's police directing traffic outside, and our church held about 400 people. They were directing traffic outside because there were so many people trying to get into the funeral that it was overwhelmed. There were people standing at the back. There were people standing outside. If I can be half that person who has that many friends and influences that many people, and people respect that person so much that they have that sort of bearing on life. He was only 44, so I understand there'll be a lot of people who can go, and if I die at 80, probably a lot of my mates already have gone, whatever, it's how it works. But my dad.
That's amazing. And mate, look, last
there you
one.
Go. Tear last to my eye. Go on. Last one.
What is your one rule for living a fulfilled life?
Oh, try and fit as much into a day as possible. People go lunatic with me. I'm late to meetings. It's really bad, and I apologise at times. But if I can get 5 things into a day where most people get 4 things, I do 5 things. Carpe Diem, seize the day. Go for it, because you're only here once. What is the point of being of thinking, oh, I could have done, I'll do that tomorrow. Why do that tomorrow? Because basically you might be dead tomorrow. My dad was, so I'd do it today.
Mate, what an absolutely inspirational story. And listen, thank you so much. Honestly, 100% I'm going to message you. I've got to get you on the proper podcast, and we'll have a longer conversation. And I want to deal.
It won't fit into your podcast. It won't fit into your podcast though, because it's stories of Sussex, isn't it? That's what I've seen from reading and seeing the podcast.
But how can I get you on and not delve into more about what we're talking about? Don't worry about that. We'll get it.
Yeah.
Listen, mate. Absolute gent. Cool. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and your energy. Look, at 3:00 in the morning over here, the energy has certainly kept me going. So, mate, amazing. Thank you so much.
Listen, keep going. Good luck. Congratulations with what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. The 24-hour podcast. I hope all the funding goes all right. And peace and out, as they say, or something like that.
Thank you so much. And that is a wrap. Well done, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
This is the County Business Talks podcast, produced by H2 Productions.